Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Cyber Hero Adventures Show. We have a real special episode today talking about how do you defend an entire nation. Well, one of the things that you might consider doing is getting a superhero costume, but I have a feeling that's probably not the best answer. Or one of the things you can do is to go to 53 cybersecurity conferences and use it as a source of superpower. Or you can just have some of the smartest people of the world on your show. I think that's the approach that we're going to be taking. And I bet I get agreement from that from our producer, Ron Craig. Say hi, Ron.
Hi, Ron. Oh.
Okay. Time out. Wait a minute. I thought we agreed. I do the humor. You focus on cybersecurity. That way we stay in our lanes.
I keep forgetting. You know, I have a short-term memory. You know, I did that test with a goldfish recently. It won again. It just doesn't work out at all. Anyway, hi everybody. Welcome. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that you're here, and we have a very good show planned. So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and it's really exciting for me to have Ron on camera. You know, typically he's kind of behind the scenes, and Ron, you know, you're going to be leading a very important aspect of the next version of our sort of Forrest Gump journey into this digital universe. We're going to be launching the Cyber Hero Network soon, and the part of the network that you're going to be leading is actually creating a turnkey home for all these amazing thought leaders who are doing podcasts or video casts, and maybe you don't want to handle the technical part or worry about marketing or whatever. So Ron, why don't you give us a quick brief on that, and then we'll jump into today's show.
Sure, I'd love to definitely talk about that. So really the idea, as Gary and I talk about often, is really, you know, easy peasy. You know, I mean, to put a show together, to put a podcast together, to put all of this stuff together, you know, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of time that people really don't have. So what we want to do is we want to kind of take what we do best and to help you do what you do best. You know, the thought leaders, you have the information, you have the talents when it comes to protecting and to communicating this, and you know, we provide the medium. So we're really looking at handling, you know, 7 key steps to make this happen. So really, you know, to recruit, you know, world-class thought leaders, to get them in to have a show, you know, to frame the show using, you know, our proprietary creative process, which is really something that we've worked really hard on, that we've, you know, I think we really have a niche here that we've done extremely well to put that together. As you've seen from the opening of this show, it's fantastic. You know, putting together kind of part of the flow, you know, the pre-show interviews with the guests, to handle that for you, to get everything kind of flowing together really well. Because I think flow is really something that we work extremely hard to make that flow, the flow. And then of course, the marketing, you know, the internal communications, the PR, the product managers, the stakeholders, you know, to align with them and get everything aligned so that it all, again, flows together very nicely, very easy, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And then, of course, the scheduling of the show, you know, making sure that it's consistent, that, you know, like our main show that we do is, you know, it's out every, you know, 1 p.m. Eastern Thursday. You know, we do all the marketing, everything that comes in before that. And we put a lot of effort to make sure that's consistent, it's planned, that everybody knows what's coming. And then, of course, we also have our rapid responder shows that you see Gary do often, where we really just roll quickly with breaking news and topical events. So, you know, something happens today, we'll literally put a show out today. If it's a big enough story, we'll roll on that right away. And then, of course, a very important thing is what happens after the show, providing the content, the follow-up to make sure that the guests, the sponsors, you know, actually receive a copy of the content so that you can actually do some post-marketing, and we'll also help you with that. And then, of course, the enhanced distribution to followers, sponsors, channel partners, et cetera, like that. So that, of course, you know, to make sure that you can get a wider audience and get seen, and make sure that your thoughts, you know, reach as wide of an audience as possible. So in a nutshell, I mean, I guess that's a big nutshell, is, you know, there's a lot that actually goes on in the production of a show. And as Gary knows, he's been working tirelessly at this for years. That it takes a lot of effort, and we want to make sure that we actually take a lot of that off you so that you can really just focus on what you do best.
Wow, yeah, and thanks for that debrief. So stay tuned. You'll be hearing about the Cyber Hero Network shortly. But speaking of important and wonderful, people, let me introduce to our audience Raphael Franco. Hey, Raphael, how you doing?
Good evening, Gary. How are you? I am perfect.
And you're in Tel Aviv, Israel, right?
Yeah, I am in Tel Aviv in my office. We are in the sunset time, and everything is quiet and peace, and we are ready to a good show.
Wow, that's really fantastic, because the world's been hearing quite a bit about, all the things that are going on, in the region, and to hear someone of your stature say quiet and peace, that's a real blessing for the whole world, I would say.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. We are okay. We are after some, let's say, mini war, but right now it's quiet, and I believe we will get a peace and quiet for a long time period. So this is what I believe is our neighbors from the south. So let's continue with your fabulous show.
Indeed. And so tell us a little bit about your origin story. And our audience knows that amongst many things we do, cyber hero comics and origin stories are a very important motivation. How did you get to this moment in your life?
So thank you. So I retired 6 months ago, but my career I follow in ISA, Israel Security Agency, is equivalent to the FBI. And after 6 or 7 years in the field, because I have a technology background, someone told me, "Do you want to forward your career in the cyber in the information security arena?" And I thought to myself, I am a field officer background, and I have a technology background. Why not? Why not to try a new field? And this was 16 or 17 years ago. And from there, I built the first Israeli methods for critical infrastructure. And later on, I worked with the government from the ISA perspective. And I follow, and it goes up with the rank till I had the head of the Israeli government cybersecurity. And 6 years ago, the prime minister, or 7 years ago, the prime minister asked me and my friends to establish a new organization like the Shin Bet, INCD, Israel National Cyber Directorate. And I was my first position was the head of the cyber, let's say, cyber culture. And later on, I was the deputy. I was in charge on all the Israeli civilian market. In the right end, the critical infrastructure. In the left end, the man in the street. I was responsible between them on everything. And what is mean everything? Everything, it's mean methods, it's mean awareness, it mean human capacity, it mean cyber preparedness, crisis preparedness, critical infrastructure, 20 sectors, transportation, finance, communication, and so on. And and all of that, 32 units under my command. And it was a very, very tough mission to build the ecosystem between the defense, the academia, the technology, the industry, and everything we put on a puzzle, and it exists. And this is what we will talk today.
Wow. So my very first question is, when do you sleep?
I'm not sleeping.
I mean,
not sleeping. When you are responsible on this tough mission on this large arena, you have 32 units, hundreds of people, thousands of people, and you are responsible for a life, because everybody thinks cyber is a technology, but cyber is life, is our culture, is it is impact all our life sites, from where we are coming with our mobile phone, and we go to sleep with our mobile phone, and all we did and what we eat and what we do, it depends on our cybersecurity hygiene. So basically, we have a lot of missions, and as you know, we are in a tough neighborhood, so it's tougher than usual.
Yeah, and before I turn it over to Ron to share a little bit of his thinking about this, it seems this is the largest portfolio that I personally have listened and learned from. I've interviewed over 100 people, and in my experience so far, each one of the aspects of cybersecurity that you just said for has its own everything. I mean, how do you do that? How do you decide what to prioritize for defending a nation?
Whoa, it's a tough questions, but I will try to explain. When we started to build the Israeli ecosystem, we asked two questions. First of all, what are the main risks to our national? What are the main risks? And this was a tough mission, but we took the most smartest guy in the area, and we asked many questions. What if this it? What if that it? And we built some what I called a heat map of organization, heat map of critical processes, heat map of critical infrastructures, and of course, cross-referenced by them. And this was the first step. The second step, we ask ourselves how we build it from scratch. For example, if you want a strong industry, you need to invest. But where to invest? We need to invest in people in high level, low level. We need to invest in people in school, high school, academia. Where to invest? So we calculate everything, and if you want a strong industry, it means you need to develop, first of all, support from the government for startups. Second, you need to build human capacity from bottom up, from academia. But from the academia is not enough. So you are going to the high school and you build a cyber class in the high school. So all the puzzle must to combine together if you want a strong industry. And if you have a strong industry, you can of course build the defense. And for that you need layer of methods. So it takes times. It takes more than I think 5 or 6 years. But right now, with a good vibe and a good investment and good peoples, we try to build a very beautiful ecosystem. But it just starts with the critical infrastructure. What about the man in the street? What about the sector? What about small, medium, or large enterprise? So you need to put everything and to rank from the high criteria to the low level criteria, from high risk to the low risk, high damage, low damage, and always you are working with heat map. Of course, technology heat map. It's not Excel. It's smart in there, and it's always you play with that. And it's always focus you when to put your energy, where to defense when something can eat you. What can be the damage? And after some 2 or 3 years, we would be more sophisticated with this method. But this is the first step. Okay.
Wow. I mean, that is just an incredible explanation, and to just kind of summarize what I'm hearing from you, and let me just check this to make sure, I have it right, is you're creating a culture of cybersecurity for an entire nation.
Again, I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Is it correct that what you're talking about is to create a culture of cybersecurity for everyone, for the whole country?
Yes, but I want to focus. What is mean culture? Culture is start with us, not with our company, not with our organization. Culture is us, is our organization, is our nation. And when someone asks me, I know what is cyber. The first questions that I ask him: do you have antivirus on your mobile phone? He say, I don't know. You pay for that? I don't know. The culture starts from us, from our children. Is not is not just for leave it for the country. No. So basically, the personal awareness, we start with the personal awareness, and there is no cyber in the organization and cyber at home. It's a cyber culture, and culture, it's all the time. It's 24/7, and this is what we try to build in Israel. So we start in a kindergarten, in first class, to achieve awareness to personal security, not to share sensitive data, to do some personal data recovery to your staff.
Wow.
So basically, we start from the basic, and of course, when you build a culture, when you are going to the highest level, of course, it's technology and everything, but culture start with us.
Well, I have to amplify how unbelievably true that is. Probably everywhere in the world, but certainly here in the United States, to create this culture of cybersecurity. We have some interesting graphics that you share with us. So let's ask Ron to pop them in, and Ron, maybe you can share some thoughts with Raphael.
Sure. Let me go through here. So I'm going to bring up your slides here.
Yeah, and while he's doing that, Raphael, I really just want to thank you so much for who you are and what you do, and you're a real life unsung cyber hero. So tell us what we're looking at here.
We see the history of the world. This is a perfect slide to see the changes, from the 15th century till today. So if in the 15th century we was with sword, and we see in the 18th century with guns, and
wait, hold it. Is this what you mean?
Yes.
Remember,
yes,
as part of the cyber hero network,
century.
you get your own shield and sword. Yay!
Yes, I advertise your shield, of course. Yes. So, but if you see the history, the last 100 years from 1915 till today, it's 100 years. See what happens. The cyber is no limit. The cyber is no need borders. The cyber make flat our network. The bad guys can use the bad guys can use right now with the cyber no limit and borders. So this is what happens, and I like this slide because you don't need tanks, you don't need aircraft, you need a mobile phone, you need a computer, to disrupt a country, and this is what try to explain this slide, and and I think most of the countries right now consider the cyber of course in the national aspects, but really we should start with our children's. We should continue with the support from the government to the industry, and of course when you have knowledge and you have investment, you can start to create what we say ecosystem. And what is ecosystem? Ecosystem, it's how the academia develop a new idea, how the industry adopt a new technology, and how the government, INCD, and of course the private market can use it. And this is what I say. This is what I call ecosystem. So, but if you want a strong academia, we need to develop you need to develop mathematics, and you need information security and computer and technology. So it's a very complicated puzzle, but the three tangles is academia, government and market, and of course the cyber industry, startups, and of course strong and big and large companies.
Yeah, and it's globally known that Israel is considered one of the leading countries in the world pertaining to cybersecurity. With how many startups you think come from Israel?
If I remember, we support. I know there is a 650 proximity, yes, but we support a lot of startups, and support with knowledge, support with with we we support with the money, support with the idea, support with to help them and to create for them opportunity around the globe. This is how it works. It's not just knowledge, it's not just money, it's everything. We do some presentation, we develop a relationship with other countries and with other industries from rest of the world. So this is how you build a strong and innovation startups, and not just startups, of course, medium and large cybersecurity industry.
Well, also, speaking of, building a nation, let me bring in Ken Muir. Hey, Ken, how you doing today?
I'm doing really great. Thank you very much.
And, Ken has another very interesting perspective on defending a nation, very different experience than what you're describing. And, Ken lives up in Toronto, Canada. So, Ken, why don't you give us your perspectives on what you've heard and, some of the interesting things that you're doing on behalf of the nation of Canada?
Yeah, first off, it's good to see you again, Raphael. I just wanted to,
I can.
Hey, how are you?
I'm perfect. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
First off, I'm just absolutely amazed. When I hear you speak about, particularly the culture, that one word alone describes everything that we have as a problem. Really, is what it comes down to, because trying to get people speaking the same language across a nation and to work in the same way is really, really challenging. Here in Canada, for instance, we have a lot of provinces. Most of them are very sparsely populated. We have a very massive landmass, but doesn't seem to have. But it doesn't seem to. It doesn't translate very easily across the country. We have a lot of public sector organizations, for instance, who. They pretty much left to their own devices to have to figure out how to do cybersecurity. And it's a real challenge for them, because you've got, very small organizations, you've got really big organizations. The smaller organizations don't really have, the means, they don't have the resources, they don't have the funding behind them to really, safeguard the businesses that they're running, whether it's a library system, it's a school board, if municipalities, towns, that kind of thing. It's very, very challenging, actually. So, one of the things that I realized, it's not that the government doesn't really, back implementing sort of standards across the country, but really what it is just getting people to be in line with that. There's no sort of a central mandate like you've described in your scenario to be able to do this. So, just doing a mic check. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, fine. And I mean, one of the things that comes to mind, kind of comparing and contrasting, the two countries' experience. Ken, you're doing some innovative work for one of the regions up there. Can you share with our audience the mission and kind of how it's going, and what a particular interest is? What is Canada's culture or Canada's ecosystem, compared to the framework that Raphael describes that Israel has?
So actually, it's funny you asked me that, because as I was sitting listening to Raphael explaining his approach and what he's been able to do for the nation, usually when we do assessments for organizations, we always include sort of a maturity rating. So are you a 1, are you a 5, are you starting out, a superstar, or something in between? And I'd have to say, on a maturity level, we're way behind. We're way behind, because we don't have a unified approach to the way we deal with cybersecurity. And what that does is it makes it really tough for organizations to really get on board in terms of being able to to raise their level of maturity. The other thing is that I think Raphael explained this before, is that he has a methodology, and this methodology really is all encompassing. And this is what actually underpins that culture that's been built within the country. It's you need to all get on board, as you mentioned before, just starting with your phone and then growing up from there. This is culture. We really don't have that here in this country. So what I've been doing the last few years is trying to build that out. Like we have a lot of partners across the country. We almost call them like the coalition of the willing. And what they do is they've come on board with us to get educated in what proper standards are, proper frameworks, proper strategies, proper disciplines around cybersecurity, and then in turn helping their organizations that they deal with to try to assimilate in the same way. Because as I explain to people, like what you need is to have a common language. So if I'm dealing with, a school board, for instance, or a library system or a hospital system, instead of each one of you having your own ways of doing things, just have a common standard, because that way you have a common language. And then you could also share resources then, because, you may not have the resources to cover this particular project, but you can borrow from other people and to be able to help to do that. And so that helps with the resourcing challenges that we have here as well. But it really comes down to, and I know that Raphael would agree with this, it's a discipline. If we're calling this a cyber war, we're not really designed to take on this as a war. We call it a cyber war, but we're not really organized to fight this war at all, in all honesty, because there is no General Westmoreland that's standing up on the top of the hill saying, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do to fight this battle. There's nobody doing that. And so it's really left to individuals like myself, Ron and other people to be able to try and push that message ongoingly to try to, get people on board with this kind of a discipline. One of the things that just lastly is when you look at it, again, based on what Raphael said earlier, the weight of influence is not on the side of the consumer or the population of a country. We have 1.3 million businesses here, 36 million people, yet they have no influence over an organization to get them to take care of their data. So companies get breached and they have really no say in this whole thing.
Well, I mean, talk about interest. As soon as I put up our rapid responder, sort of the equivalent of the bat call, we have a good friend of the show, Bob Schmidt. Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Good to be
Hi,
here.
good evening. How are you?
Hey, Bob.
Raphael, nice to meet you. Ken, good to see you. Gary, it's always a pleasure.
Thank
Nice
you.
to meet
So,
you.
did the bat signal must have worked?
It did. It was unbelievable. I'm in New York City, and in thin air, this big light came out of somewhere saying, "You're on."
All right. Well, I like how you're going with the improv of it. Let's do that some more, some other day. But now you have some unique perspectives on what you're hearing here. What are your thoughts as a long-term practitioner in cybersecurity? As well as a subject matter expert in the dark or unindexed web?
Yes. First of all, Raphael, you have a lot less gray hair than I do. I started my first cybersecurity company in 1997, and the first technology I used was a technology from Israel that had to do with biometrics. And back in '97, it was kick butt technology. It really was. That's how I started this business back in '97, and then obviously it evolved. And now I have a company that's involved with, as Gary said, the dark web. But we also do a lot of training. And the point you guys are making with culture, it is so correct. I mean, it all comes down to culture. If you don't train your employees and they don't know what to do if they're attacked or whatever, it's a losing proposition. So whether you have one employee or 1 million employees, everyone has to be trained. And one thing we found early on was we came out with these really cool videos. They were 30, 40 minutes long. We thought they were the greatest thing in the world, and everyone hated it. So what we learned very quickly was you've got to make quick, fast videos. So we did a bunch of videos, anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. It took on, and now it's really changing a lot of the cultures from our clients. And we've got a lot of clients that use these videos to train their employees. But I just want to take it one step further. Where training should start really should be not with IT. It really should be with human resources, because those are the folks that are working with the individuals every single day. So we found the winning combination to be, if we work with the human resource department and folks and train their employees through HR, it really is, a better way to do it. And everyone gets trained.
Indeed. It's interesting you said that too, because I wasn't planning on popping this up, but, in thinking about our show and how to differentiate it in a meaningful way, in addition to having the privilege of listening and learning from the smartest people in the world, we wanted to create more of an experience. And so we looked at different forms. We did sort of A/B testing. And I'll just show you some data. This is true with every one of our shows about engagement. And for our show, engagement actually goes up. And this particular one is 50 minutes. Which is another perspective on duration. But, certainly your point is, spot on, that you've got to catch people's attention and stuff. But there is another way by having, these kinds of thought leader and interesting discussions. And so speaking of that, let's, Ron, can you pop in another slide from Raphael?
I sure can. Let me just get this back up here and we'll be ready to go. There you go, Raphael. Take it away.
Oh, thank you. So you asked me, Gary, how we build the risk maturity. So we prefer, first of all, we prefer the critical infrastructure. Please take background for a moment. So, and when I say critical infrastructure, is mean the basic needs of Abraham Maslow. It's water, it's electricity, okay? It's gas, it's the basic needs. And you choose, in Israel, you choose 40 critical infrastructure. It's enough, 40 critical, not everything is critical. And it means it causes damage to casualties, it causes damage to our society, it causes large damage to our large financial loss. So this is critical infrastructure. And to be sure that we are 100% protect in our critical infrastructure, we do two things. First of all, we guide them directly. The Israel National Cyber Director guided directly 40 companies. And of course, we'll build for them ecosystem. Second, for our critical infrastructure, we have a classified methods, not the regular method, a classified methods with a lot of specific, of course, we cannot put inside, but because this is a critical infrastructures. And of course, we have the government, we have just one government. And please, Ron, if you can take forward with our sectors, we have 20 sectors, and for the sectors we cannot guide directly, so we are guided by the nature regulation. And what does mean nature regulation? It means if it's transportation, the Ministry of Transportation will guide them. So if it's communication, the communication office will guide them, communication department, finance department, and so on. And what we bring to the table, what are the tools? We share with them sensitive knowledge. We build for them sectorial SOC, okay? We give them controls. We give them supply chain technology, and of course, legal and advisory board. So this is how you build 20 sectorial units.
Well, this, Raphael, let me just say something real quickly about that, because here in the United States, we have CISA, and they've designated, around 16 critical infrastructures like those you described. And recently, in the last couple of weeks, President Biden signed an executive order designed to kind of coalesce, all this, And Ken, let me ask you something you and I had talked about before, that we seem to have kind of what we need, and we kind of know how to do things, just, with air quotes. Maybe you can share with our audience a little bit about your thoughts with that, Ron, and you can remove his slide for a minute.
Yeah, no, it's, the thing that there are organizations out there, I understand from discussions with Raphael, like they have a very robust sort of set of controls that they follow. But we already have controls, like people that work, these great organizations like MITRE and NIST and Center for Internet Security and ISO 27000 series, or this stuff is already built, like it already exists. Nobody has to sit down and work out anything. Like I keep hearing this over and over. We need to sit down and work this out. No, you don't. You need to just do it. This stuff already exists. Nobody needs the things that I'm trying to. That's one of the things I'm educating people with is that what we're doing is we're taking industry standards, industry best practices, and what we're doing is trying to build a culture around the use of these things. They already exist. And the reason why I know these exist is because in my past, I've done assessments for organizations. I've built security operations centers literally from the ground up to help to manage all of these things that people have to do in order to raise their levels of maturity. And then they roll them into sort of a managed service or a governance or whatever the end result is. It's management of all these things. Like it already exists. It's just that people are not using them at all. We don't need to create something on the level of, Raphael, because his requirements are different to ours, but principally it's the same thing, but we're just not doing it. And I don't really understand why. And it really comes down to, I think really like it's a cultural thing. Honestly, when Raphael said that, it was like, bing, yeah, you know what? That's exactly what it is. If you don't have a culture that understands this, like Raphael said, if when you train little kids that they need to pay attention to this, what needs to happen then is, they then ask, they're the ones that are going to be asking businesses, what are you doing for cybersecurity? How are you protecting my data?
Well, Dennis, thanks for this great comment, because he's really tying together these two experiences. Raphael was explaining, full integration, right from kindergarten, the government, helps and provides all these exact tools, where in the United States, we all know it's different because of intellectual property, competition, some rules and regulations prohibiting the kind of information sharing. And I'm a monster fan of the information ISACs, information sharing and analysis centers, and we work closely, with them. So, Bob, what are your thoughts about this? How do we just get past this kind of bottleneck of collaborating and creating this culture of security that Raphael so eloquently described?
Raphael hit it right on the head. It starts from the very young, from literally when you're a child, and should be taught all the way up. It really comes down to really education, really educating everybody, whether it's employees, whether it's, the government workers, whatever the case might be. It comes down to training it and have the employees understand what you're trying to comprehend. I started a company a number of years ago, and it went up to a couple thousand employees. And one of the things that we really stressed more than anything was that, our people are the most valuable. And culture was key. So we really built a culture around people, and it was really successful. And that's what we need to do in cybersecurity. If people understand the threat, and I think people finally are starting to understand the threat, that, we need to do something. We need to do it fast. What happened with the Colonial Pipeline, I think, is just the tip of the iceberg. So,
well, but you know what? Excuse the interruption, just to opine on that real quickly. What happened, at least from my perspective, from the Colonial Pipeline, is it affected people in their pockets for the first time that they could see, right?
That's right. That's right. And wait till it hits them when the electric goes out, or, worse, or they go to the ATM machine and there's no money there because it was just breached. So I think this was a good, well, not a good lesson, but it was a lesson to be learned, and hopefully we'll learn from this.
Yeah, indeed. And Bob, I know you have a hard stop. You're welcome to stay on, but if you have to go, thanks for popping in. And Ron, let me get some of your perspectives on this. You have a very unique perch as a security awareness and security influencer. You're widely known around the whole world. What are your thoughts about what you're hearing so far?
Well, actually, I really like where this is all going for sure. Awareness is definitely my bread and butter, and it definitely comes down to a culture perspective. I think I really agree with Ken that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If you look at what's out there with NIST and CISA, and ISACs, everything and ISO. I mean, there are so many amazing and excellent standards and techniques and ways of doing things that are really just fantastic. But, it comes down to why are people not doing them? And I don't want to always say that it's a question of laziness. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more you get set into the business operations and you're just really focusing on how to run your business from, the finance and the HR and all that. You don't really focus on the security because, I've talked to a number of people over the years where they've said, cyber was the last thing on my mind before I got attacked. And it's always that in the way, before I lost everything, before an insider threat took me out, before, it's always, unfortunately, they don't act. It's not act, it's react. And I think with the colonial, that's exactly what it was, is that it actually gave people it caused a reaction. And I think that wasn't necessarily planned by the attackers because the attackers did not take out the pipeline per se. They took out the billing system. So it wasn't actually the flow of oil that stopped. It was actually the flow of paper and the billing and to be able to bill customers and actually get paid for the oil. So they actually didn't target the critical infrastructure per se. It was actually the billing systems themselves. And of course, they had to make the decision that if we don't know what's going on, then we have to kind of shut everything down. They didn't really have to do that, but they made that was their own business decision they made. So I think that was but I think in a way that was almost a good thing. That they took it to that level, I think, to really shock a nation as a whole and to get people to start thinking about this and saying, this is just the beginning. And, we have all the tools and we have all the means to act today. Let's just start acting. And you know what? Here's a small taste of why. And we see it in the news every day. But the thing is that we all see the news every day. We see tragedies, we see hacks, we see attacks, but if they don't affect us personally on a personal level, we are not going to be apt to take any action, and I think that again is a cultural perspective. We need to make it almost like seatbelts. If we think back to when seatbelts were introduced many years ago, it's even before my time, but people fought that. They fought that change, but now because of repetition and it being pushed into the culture of society, people can't even get in their car and not put it on. They almost feel like they're missing something. So we need people to really think about that from a security perspective, that if I'm not doing something from a secure context, then I'm missing something. Something does not feel right. We need it to actually be second nature.
Raphael, let's bring you back in, and you want to comment on that, and we'll share a couple more of your slides.
Just a short comment about the culture. I want to say something. Regulation is not enough. If you want to build a culture, you need to incentivize the people to take the lemon and to build the lemonade. And to do it is a tough mission, but you need to create it. Right now, the awareness came from the bad guys, and this is not good for us. We need it from the lemonade. What if I will adopt a new standard? Okay, what is it? What will be for what is the incentivize for me? And we should build it, and we should think it about it. In Israel, we take the lemon and we build lemonade. How we do that? We build accelerators with the largest manufacturer. We build innovation labs, okay, for kids. So you build the right atmosphere to create a culture. It's not to say, okay, it's a regulation, because I was head of the regulation division. So of course you can bring a lot of regulation, but you can also bring a lemonade to the table. And I think it's better than regulation, and of course better than the bad guy will lead the awareness.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, Ron, can you pop in some more of the cool slides? Let's go to the next one. And Raphael, tell us, what are we looking here? And this is an interesting analogy about beekeeping.
Yeah. Why bee? Because he protect himself. But when people ask me when the government should involve, where in the critical, in the finance, and I tell to people, where is the largest risk, where is the largest damage, and where is the failure market? If we will combine, we will calculate this mechanism, I know where the government should focus, and this is what this slide try to discover us. And take me to the next slide. I think is more well, we don't see what on the board, but this is the a kind of heat map and risk and damage indicators. And there are, of course, the map is empty because it's a sensitive data. But what I want to say is not just the risk from one company; it's everything connected. And
Yes.
what I did in our nation, we built a mechanism, a technology that we try to figure and to understand how the supply chain, where is the largest hub, where is the largest IT, where are the largest manufacturer, and we try to identify those choke points that we want to guide. And this is a very strong tools. Of course, each company can do can work with suppliers and third party and to manage the third party. And we know most of the attacks in the last 1 or 2 years, okay, came from third party. So we try to build and to find where are the largest choke point in Israel. And I suggest to any company, okay, to build a mechanism to take tools. There are very innovation tools that can create a heat map for any company. But this is for a next show, not for this is the more tactical practice, of course, with how you protect a company or organization. This is for another show. But we built it for our nation.
I mean, it is for another show. We would love to have you back. Would you like to come back on the show?
Thank you.
That's a hard like you who
yes. I try to say yes, but I need to ask my wife. Okay.
Okay.
I need to ask the manager.
Exactly. You let us know, and I know it's late at night, so thanks so much for staying up for us. We really appreciate it. So Ken, what do you think about what you've heard today? What would some key takeaways for our audience be?
So the thing that I mean, I utterly admire what Raphael and team have been able to do over the years, because it's something that we're struggling with, right? We're trying to develop a culture here where people are really aligning themselves to industry standards and following best practice because there's things that have already been written. But engendering the culture, if you look at, to me, like if I was to somebody asked me like, what's an idea of trying to change the culture is, if I go on my cell phone and I look up, show me the 10 or the nearest veterinarians to me, what I want to see is not just, a 5-star rating and, been in business for so long and blah, 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 is a rating based on the cybersecurity hygiene. Is it low? Is it high? Is it something like that? And this is not something out of the blue, because there are agencies within Canada that are actually trying to do this right now. They're trying to influence small businesses to become more, to develop good cyber hygiene. And then if they do that, they get a badge to say you've got good cyber hygiene. Well, that information should be transmitted to my phone so I can see that.
Well, speaking of which, you were talking about cyber hygiene. We actually have struck a joint venture with an Israeli cybersecurity firm to bring some of our characters to life, to train people in using 3D. Take a look at Phoebe the Fisher.
I'm Phoebe Fisher. The Fisher hunts its prey by pretending to be legitimate communication from a trusted company or from the hijacked identity of a friend, colleague, or family member. Using one of many ruses, the Fisher encourages the potential victim to divulge sensitive information such as login IDs, passwords, PINs, social security numbers, etc. This information is quickly used to steal money from accounts and to apply for fraudulent loans and credit cards.
Very good.
That's pretty cool, isn't it? Just to make sort of all this fun and engaging and interesting. So, any last words, Ken? And then I'll turn it over to Raphael for his final thoughts.
We've got to change the culture. That's really what it comes down to, because legislation's not enough. I mean, there's a lot of legislation we have everywhere, and it's all over the place. Some are really, really extreme. Some are very tepid in terms of their implementation, and there's no balance between them. But what will make a difference is that cultural change.
Yeah, indeed. So, Raphael, is there anything else you'd like to amplify about your mission? Tell us about your new company and how do people get a hold of you? Code Blue, right? What are you doing there?
Yes, the Code Blue is one of my company is crisis management and crisis preparedness, not just management. We assume that will be a damage. And why we assume that? Because we see a lot of bad guys, a lot of gang and syndicates and crime around us. And if 2 years ago we saw, I think, 20 gangs, right now we see hundreds of gangs and flooding our society. So, of course, we are moving so slow. We speak about that, and we will see more and more damage. And my team with operational view and of course multi-level working with PR and media and lawyers and IR and a lot of people try to reduce the damage. This is what we do, and we are working around the globe. We, of course, with a very, very strong people, very innovation people, very strong people. We reduce the total damage. This is what we do. We are not a defense company. We are reducing the total damage, and this is what Code Blue do. And of course, I support, as you know, I support startups. I support the large manufacturer. I build for them strategy, operational strategy. Maybe in our next show we will talk about how to build operational concept defense, and this is very important, because I think the new style, the old style method is not enough. How you mislead the people, how you work with you see the attacker eye, and maybe to the next show. But Gary,
yeah, well, that's something we can look at. And coincidentally, Ron, the producer's on the show. So, Ron, to me, of the many things he just talked about, the next one would be something along the lines of crisis communications. Because when an incident happens, everyone, all of our audience knows it triggers many things, some of which people are prepared for through tabletops and things like that, but much of which they are not. So what do you think about that for a show around crisis communications in cyber?
No, I like that, because I think we want to start encouraging people to share information and to get ahead of the game. Again, going back to the whole reactive, we seem to be just as a culture, we're reactive. We react when it's basically, too late. It's always 5 minutes too late and 10 minutes too late. And, we want to be able to start getting that communication and a framework for that communication. And I really agree with what Raphael and Ken said when it comes to legislation and regulation. I don't think we need more of that. Matter of fact, we might even need less of that. I think I'd rather see incentives through certifications, if anything, to say, and I think Canada has been making some leeway in that regard. Ken would probably know more, but we have our baseline control certification program that companies can actually go and get now and apply for, to say we have met the basic fundamentals, and we actually are certified that now, of course, that has to be something that is renewable, and it's not just one and done, because we know that doesn't work. It has to be something that continues. And I think that I'd like to see more of that actually happening, where people actually take the incentive, have incentives to certify and actually put that initiative forward and move ahead.
Yeah, that's great, and worthy of a show as well. We've gone into CMMC certification from the Department of Defense, and Crest is one of our sponsors. They're a wonderful certification organization. So let's do a show about that. Boy, we have a lot of content. If nothing else, in the cybersecurity community, there's a lot going on. Well, on that note, Raphael, thank you so much. for being a real life unsung cyber hero and who you are and what you do. Ken, as always, thanks so much for being a friend of the show. And Ron, none of this could be possible without you. So thanks so much. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, send an email to Gary@cyberheroescomics.com. And what it is that you're doing that's cool and cutting edge, that kind of thing. And if there's breaking news on a particular day, as Ron said earlier, we jump on it, and we always have unbelievable thought leaders like those people that you see here today. So with that in mind, I hope everyone stays safe, get a vaccine, and thanks for who you are and what you do.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.